Every year in March, a strange and silent event occurs. 1 full hour of time simply disappears. It happens in the quiet, early hours of a Sunday morning, when most people are deeply asleep and cannot object. At precisely 2 o'clock, without a sound or any warning, clocks across many countries suddenly jump forward to 3 o'clock. An entire hour of the night is gone, vanished. There is no refund, no clear explanation, and certainly no apology for this loss. When alarm clocks sound a few hours later, hundreds of millions of people wake up. They drag themselves out of bed, blink at the pale morning light, and feel it deeply. In their tired bones, their bleary eyes, and their slow-moving minds, they sense that something important has been taken from them. They experience a deep grogginess and confusion. This sudden shift throws human biology into instant chaos. Our body's natural clocks, which tell us when to sleep and wake, do not instantly change. Modern society also struggles. Important systems like buses and trains must suddenly follow new, changed times. Many people arrive late for work or school. It is a strange, unsettling start to the spring season every single year. Indeed, something was taken. But here is the more interesting question. Why do we let this happen? Why do over 1 billion people across many nations silently agree to this lie about the time every single spring? We endure the tiredness, the confusion, and the very real health risks for a ritual that almost nobody truly likes. Why do children have to wait for school buses in the dark? Why do farmers' animals refuse to cooperate with the new schedule? Why do heart doctors prepare for more heart attacks on the Monday after the time change? And why do people who trade stocks stare at their computer screens, feeling sleepy and unfocused? To find the answers, we must look much further back in time than you might expect. This book will be your guide through this strange history. You will learn about a funny, satirical pamphlet that was never meant to be a real suggestion. We will discover how 2 world wars forced entire countries across the global world to change their clocks. And you will meet the people, like those who sell golf equipment and candy, who lobbied to keep this time change going. The story of this strange time change is like a mirror for our civilization. It shows us who truly holds power, what we are willing to put up with for what we call convenience, and what happens when an urgent wartime rule becomes a permanent part of our daily lives. This is the story of the stolen hour, a journey into the puzzling history of time itself. 2. A joke about the sun. Many people believe Benjamin Franklin invented daylight saving time, but this is not the real story. In fact, Franklin never truly suggested changing the clocks. He was just making a joke. In April 1784, Franklin lived in Paris as America's ambassador. He wrote a satirical letter for a newspaper called the Journal de Paris. In this letter, he pretended to have found something amazing. The sun rises very early in the morning. This was a joke about French people. Franklin had made an observation that Parisians often slept very late. They would burn expensive candles deep into the night. Then they would sleep through the perfectly free sunlight of the morning. Franklin used his famous sense of humor. He wrote that he was surprised to be awake at 6 a.m. and find the sun was already up. He said, "I saw it with my own eyes."
This was a deadpan way of saying that the Parisians were missing out. His modest proposal for fixing this economic waste was anything but modest. He jokingly suggested rules like taxing window shutters, making police control how many candles people could buy, stopping horse carriages after dark unless it was an emergency, and even firing cannons in every street to get sluggards, lazy people, out of bed. He even reassured readers that all the difficulty will be in the first 2 or 3 days. Of course, the French government did not start firing cannons at sunrise. Franklin's letter was a clear piece of satire. It was the kind of long, detailed joke that people in his time enjoyed, but which today can sometimes be misunderstood as a serious idea. Franklin's letter did not propose moving clocks forward in the spring and back in the fall.
That practice did not start until more than 100 years later. He was not inventing daylight saving time. He was making fun of the French. And yet, the joke stuck. Franklin's name became forever connected to a policy he never truly supported. This created a lasting myth. His funny idea, meant only as a witty remark, accidentally planted the seed for a massive global policy that would appear over a century later. This is a surprising cliffhanger, how a simple joke about the sun could accidentally lead to a world-changing decision, used for reasons Franklin never imagined. 3. The Man Who Loved Bugs. It was not Benjamin Franklin who truly created the idea of moving clocks. That credit goes to 2 different men. One was George Hudson, a bug collector from New Zealand. The other was William Willett, a builder from London. These 2 men had very different lives, but both saw a waste of daylight. They wanted to use the sun's light more efficiently. In 1895, George Hudson, an entomologist, had a unique idea. He wanted more daylight after his work shift ended. He loved collecting insects, and the evening light was important for his hobby. Hudson realized that the official clock often did not match how humans naturally felt. He wanted more light in the evening hours for his moths and beetles. So he suggested that clocks should move back by 2 hours. This would give him more time to search for bugs. His proposal got some attention in New Zealand, but it did not get much traction. People did not widely accept it, and it did not become law. Years later, the idea traveled across the world to London. There, a prosperous builder named William Willett thought about the same problem. One morning, as he rode his horse through Petts Wood, he noticed something. The blinds of many houses were still closed, even though the sun was already shining brightly. This waste bothered him greatly. Willett, who built things for a living, hated inefficiency. He began to calculate how much daylight was being wasted. Willett believed that almost 210 hours of daylight were not used each year because people were still asleep. He called this a defect in our civilization. In 1907, he wrote his ideas in a small book called The Waste of Daylight. This pamphlet suggested changing the clocks in spring and autumn. His plan was a bit more complex than what we do today. He wanted to move clocks forward by 20 minutes on each of 4 consecutive Sundays in April. That would be 80 minutes in total. Then he wanted to move them back in September. He showed how much energy could be saved on artificial light. Willett's idea caught the eye of Robert Pierce, a British member of Parliament. A bill was introduced to the House of Commons in 1908. It was discussed and examined several times. However, a strong group opposed the plan, the farmers. They said they worked by the sun, the soil, and their animals, not by a clock. A cow needs milking at its usual time, no matter what a parliament decides to call that time. Grain must be harvested when the morning dew has evaporated. Farmers felt the time change would be bad for their work and simply impractical. Sadly, William Willett died in 1915. He never saw his idea become law. But a big war was coming. That war would soon make his idea a reality, but for a completely different and urgent reason. 4. Time changes for war. World War I brought a big change to how time was kept. Countries needed to save coal. Coal was important for powering factories and moving military supplies. Using less electricity meant more coal could go to the war effort. So on April 30, 1916, Germany and its friend Austria moved their clocks forward 1 hour. They did this to save fuel. Soon after, the United Kingdom, France, and many other countries followed this idea. The United States was slower to join, but the need for fuel was great. On March 15, 1918, the U.S. Congress passed a law. This law made daylight saving time official across the country. The urgent needs of the war made the idea, which a man named William Willett had proposed years ago, finally become a reality. It was a strict wartime emergency measure. But what happened when the war finished? The fights about time began in earnest.
In 1919, Congress repealed daylight saving time. President Woodrow Wilson liked it because he could play golf in the evenings. But Congress listened to farmers and regular people who found the time change confusing and not helpful. This led to a very chaotic period. For the next 20 years, different places did different things. Some cities used daylight saving time, but their nearby towns did not. In some states, one county had a different time than another county next to it. Imagine trying to catch a train or a bus. The schedules were a nightmare. A bus trip across a state could mean changing your clock many times. It was truly absurd. Then came World War II. President Franklin D. Roosevelt started year-round daylight saving time in the U.S. He called it wartime. From 1942 to 1945, clocks were always an hour ahead of the sun. If you were born during those years, the clock at your birth was not following the sun's true time. After this Second War, the confusion started again. To put an end to this clock chaos, Congress finally passed the Uniform Time Act in 1966. This law made daylight saving time the same for most of the country. Only Hawaii and Arizona chose not to follow it, keeping standard time year-round. But the twice-yearly time changes continued for most Americans. 5. Money, golf, and candy. After World War I, the practice of changing clocks caused much confusion.
Trains and buses often ran on different clocks. Even cities next to each other could have different times. To end this chaos, Congress passed the Uniform Time Act in 1966. This law standardized daylight saving time across most of the United States. Only Hawaii and Arizona chose to keep standard time all year. However, the reason for daylight saving time began to change. It was no longer mainly about saving energy for emergencies. Instead, the focus superseded to making money for businesses. Industries realized that extra evening daylight could lead to more sales. The retail and entertainment sectors quickly understood this benefit. They saw that more light in the evenings meant people had more time to shop and enjoy leisure activities. For example, in 1984, Fortune magazine reported that a 7-week extension of daylight saving time could bring an extra $30 million to 7-Eleven stores. The golf industry also saw a huge opportunity. The National Golf Foundation believed that extending daylight saving time would increase their total earnings by $200 to $300 million.
This was because workers who finished their jobs at 5 o'clock could still play a round of golf before it got dark. This potential for more money strongly motivated these groups to lobby members of Congress. The candy and confectionery industry also wanted longer evenings. They worked hard to ensure daylight saving time included Halloween. An extra hour of daylight on October 31st meant more time for children to trick-or-treat, which directly resulted in higher candy sales. While parents thought of it as a safety measure for their children, the candy companies saw it as a significant boost in revenue. These lobbying efforts led to the Energy Policy Act of 2005. This law changed the start of daylight saving time to the second Sunday in March and the end to the first Sunday in November, adding about 4 weeks to the practice. Although a government study later found that this extension saved only a tiny 0.03% of national electricity, the commercial benefits to retail and leisure industries were quite substantial. So the original justification for daylight saving time had metastasized. What began as a wartime measure to save coal for cannons was now a permanent help for industries like golf and candy. Modern society willingly gave up its healthy sleep and regular biological rhythms. This was done, in part, so people could buy more things and enjoy more entertainment in the longer evenings. 6. What happens to your body? The first time change in spring can make your body feel strange. When we lose an hour of sleep, our hearts and brains can be affected. Losing just 1 hour seems small, but it changes a lot inside us. Sleep scientists call this circadian misalignment. It's like flying one time zone west without actually moving. The jet lag is real, even if you don't travel. Some studies have shown that there is a rise in problems like heart attacks and strokes on the Monday following the spring clock change. For example, one study found a 24% increase in heart attacks on that specific Monday. People also have more accidents at work because they are more tired, leading to more lost workdays. This can be dangerous for jobs that need a lot of attention. Even though other studies suggest these numbers might be smaller, many doctors still worry about the effects. This happens because of something called your circadian rhythm. This is like a natural clock in almost every cell of your body. It helps you know when to sleep and when to wake up. It is mostly controlled by light from the sun. When the clocks move forward, your body's natural rhythm does not change right away. It takes days or weeks for your body to catch up. This difference between the clock time and your body's time is called misalignment. Inside your brain, there is a very small part called the master clock. This clock uses signals from your eyes, especially from morning sunlight, to know what time it is. It tells your body when to release hormones, when to feel hungry, and when to be sleepy. For example, it helps your body make cortisol, which wakes you up, and melatonin, which helps you sleep. All your body's physiological processes follow this master clock. When we suddenly change the clocks for daylight saving time, the sun still rises and sets at the same real times, but your alarm clock rings an hour earlier by the new time. This means you are waking up when your body still thinks it is the middle of the night. Your master clock has not yet adjusted. Your body is asked to be awake and active, but its systems are still running their night mode protocols. This can cause a real disruption to your health, especially your cardiovascular system. Even if you feel normal after a few days, your body might still be out of sync for weeks. This long-term misalignment is a concern for sleep scientists.
It can lead to more health problems like obesity and depression because your body's natural rhythms are constantly fighting against the clock. The sun does not care about our laws. It follows its own schedule, and our bodies are designed to follow the sun. 7. The true cost of lost time. The hour we lose each spring has a significant cost that goes beyond just sleep. Many people still believe that daylight saving time helps save energy. However, modern studies show that this is often not true. An older study from 1975 suggested a 1% reduction in electricity use, but that was a long time ago when fewer homes had air conditioning.
A more recent government study in 2008 found very little energy saved across the country. Only about 0.03% of national electricity use. A clear example of this problem happened in 2006. The state of Indiana started using daylight saving time everywhere. Researchers then looked at how much electricity homes used. They found that people actually used more electricity, about 1% extra. This was because the extra evening light raised temperatures. People then used more air conditioning, which used more power. So the idea that daylight saving time saves energy might actually be backwards, especially in warmer areas. Instead of saving energy, it can make us use more. The financial impact of this lost hour is also very large. Experts have calculated that daylight saving time costs the United States about $672 million every year. This money is lost in many ways. For example, there is an increase in heart attacks after the time change, leading to costs of about $374 million. Strokes also increase, costing another $251 million. Workplace accidents add $18 million, and traffic accidents add $27 million to this yearly bill. The Monday after the clocks move forward in spring is sometimes called Sleepy Monday. On this day, many people work slower. Studies on software developers showed a noticeable decline in the computer code they wrote. People working in the stock market were also slower to understand and act on financial news.
This happens because our brains do not instantly reset. An economist named William F. Sugar II said that just changing all the clocks in our homes, cars, and offices costs Americans $1.7 billion in lost time and productivity as people spend time making these adjustments. So daylight saving time costs a lot of money, often causes us to use more energy, and can hurt our health by leading to more accidents and lower productivity. This situation leads to a big and important question. If this policy has so many problems and costs billions of dollars each year, why does it still exist? Why haven't politicians found a way to stop it, even with all these clear costs? Will it ever stop? It seems almost everyone agrees. Changing clocks twice a year is bad. Many people want it to stop. But there is a big problem. People cannot agree on which time to choose forever. Should we stay on daylight saving time all year, or go back to standard time? This is why the clock changes keep happening in the United States. Many politicians have tried to stop it. The Sunshine Protection Act is a legislative proposal that wants to make daylight saving time permanent. In 2022, the Senate passed this bill. However, it did not pass in the House of Representatives. The bill was reintroduced in the next Congress in 2025. President Donald Trump has also said he supports making daylight saving time permanent. He called the clock changes inconvenient and very costly for the nation. Despite this presidential support, and even though most people want to end the changes, the U.S. still observed the clock changes in 2025. The core problem is the big disagreement. Businesses and shopping groups like having more light in the evening during summer. They want permanent daylight saving time. It means more time for playing golf or shopping after work. However, sleep scientists and doctors say something different. They say that permanent standard time is better for our health and safety. If we had permanent daylight saving time, winter mornings would be very dark. For example, in cities like New York, the sun would not rise until nearly 8:30 in the morning in December. This means children would wait for buses in the dark for many months of the year. Dark mornings can make people tired, lead to more icy roads, and cause more accidents. Other countries have faced this question too. The European Union wanted to stop clock changes in 2019, but the member countries could not agree on one time to choose permanently, so they still change their clocks today. Russia tried permanent daylight saving time in 2011, but people did not like the very dark winter mornings. So in 2014, Russia reversed its decision and changed to permanent standard time instead. Many countries near the Earth's middle, like those in tropical Africa and Asia, do not use daylight saving time at all. This is because their daylight hours do not change much through the year.
This whole situation shows a strange truth. Humans like to think they control time. We make laws and schedules, but the sun is indifferent to our rules. It keeps its own time. Many experts now believe the biggest problem is not which time we choose. It is the yearly disruption of changing the clocks twice a year that causes most harm. This sudden switch upsets our bodies and causes many problems, as we have seen. Will we ever truly stop changing the clocks? What do you think is the best solution for our country?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.